Hi everybody, this is Bart Boyce down here in Houston, Texas. We're going to do a vlog today entitled Partner Collaboration and Potential Barriers. Now, briefly, our project is a tripart approach to alleviate the effects of PTSD, loneliness, anxiety, suicidal ideation, and identify problems related to exposure with Agent Orange, which may lead to debilitating health concerns, including cancer, heart disease, and death. Our belief in getting the suffering veteran back into the mainstream of society, along with the Scoot Camp approach, are the two innovative portions of our research design. And all 100 subjects that we're going to be working with are combat veterans suffering from PTSD. Now, there are barriers to successful partnerships, perhaps, but first let's look at what are the key elements in a successful relationship to begin with. A commonality of purpose is integral. A common vision for how to help the veterans is also key. A common understanding between the grantor and the recipient is extremely important. Proper leadership, and in our case we have Major Dutch Garretson, who is a highly decorated war veteran as well as a successful player in corporate America. So he's a leader on every level to lead our program. And finally, maybe the key, and especially in this vlog, is positive communication and ways of acknowledging during the process of the grant feedback loops, ways that we can communicate with the grantor to make sure everything is going, as the old English say, tickety-boo. Things are going quite well. Now, those are key elements of the funder-grantee relationship. And we know that if any barriers occur, avenues to resolve these barriers must be corrected. The importance of building relationship between the funder and the grantee has many different nuances. And we do have some stakeholders in this other than just the veterans themselves. And they would be the DeBakey VA Hospital in Houston, the Wounded Warrior Project, St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, and Music and Art for Veterans. And as Dr.Frances Mills so succinctly states, barriers to successful partnerships can vary from lack of communication to hidden agendas. So we want to work to overcome these barriers as best we can. And one key way, if y'all remember way back in our first module, there's a video on grant writing, and about 6 minutes into her presentation, the presentation of the three grant experts, Heather Quackenboss in our first module says that one of the most frequent mistakes that grant writers make is the failure to reach out and talk to the people reading the grants in the first place. So she also goes on to mention that it's important to interject some of the passion and enthusiasm that we have as grant writers into our grants. Now, there are lots of ways that we can keep the communication going during the process. There are online meetings, there's GoToMeeting, there's GoToWebinar, there's simple things like text messages on my telephone. I can text people. I can communicate. The slideshow we did last week is a great way of doing things. There are virtual workspaces like Google Sites. There are virtual chatting options. There are chat rooms that are password protected to develop these key relationships. And another key way is if you know somebody affiliated with the grantor, try to develop a relationship with them. Find mutual friends. Develop relationships. The benefit in doing things in the virtual world is that when we communicate by way of a chat room or a text message or email, we are communicating and documenting our project, which will basically provide 100% transparency to further communication, or to anybody looking into what is happening in the partnership. Now, the potential barriers that we have just addressed, potential barriers, can come up in a number of ways. And this is why it's so key that the grant funder, or the person providing the grant, is followed to the finest detail in the criteria that they have spelled out for the grant. Lindquist and Hadidi tell us that if authors do not follow directions, their grant most likely will be returned, not reviewed. So rules, including those about the length of the grant, specific content, format, font size, and even inclusions like bio sketches, letters of support, etc., must be followed. Now, we're going into the area of the MOA and letter of agreement. The Memorandum of Understanding, or MOA, is required of an agency when an application for funding includes an explicit non-financial collaboration or partnership with organizations. The MOA provides documentation that organizations have consulted and coordinated the responsibilities of their grant activities. 1, it clearly describes responsibility and role of each organization. 2, it describes how the partnership and the collaboration will benefit the project. 3, it describes the resources that each partner contributes to the project. And finally, 4, it provides a statement that will lead that the lead agency accepts full responsibility for the performance of the collaborative organizations and agencies. Finally, we reach a letter of agreement. This letter of agreement is key in summarizing the entire grant program. It talks about payments and how payments will be conducted. It talks about the use of the funds. It also spells out how reporting will be documented and delivered, how a final report will be documented. The interim communication, which we said earlier is so vital to working relationship and overcoming barriers in the program. What records need to be kept, and finally all the final details to spell out exactly how the grant will go down. Anyway, I hope that this has been helpful to us, and it certainly was helpful for me to wrap my mind around all the things we have to do as potential grant writers. We're doing one now. Thank you, Dr. Mills, and thank you, class.